Welcome back to the channel. Today I finally have a set of long tube headers for the Hellcat Magnum, and I don't know why it was so difficult to get headers for this car, but I tried to buy new ones from two different companies. It was almost impossible. I then go on Marketplace and it takes a week to get a set of long tubes, and I think I got a really killer deal on these. So for both of them shipped, I paid $400, and I think that's a really great deal. It has brand new oxygen sensors. These headers have 1,000 miles on them. The guy took them off of his car because he ended up selling it, and the people wanted the factory exhaust manifolds and the factory catalytic converters so they could pass emissions. So I got these for really cheap. The only concern that I had with these when I got them was this right here around each port. But after talking with some people, I guess this crushes the gasket more, so you don't have any issues with it leaking. I've never seen a header like this before, but I guess it's supposed to be made like that. I just never saw it, so I was very concerned about it. So hopefully these directly bolt in to the charger, because the front differential is on the driver's side and the steering shaft is in a different position. So I'm just kind of concerned about that. So the thing about this is, if I end up having to cut these headers up to make them fit in the wagon, I'm going to end up just using these on the Challenger and making a custom set, because at the end of the day, I would rather have a set of long tubes on the Challenger. I've been wanting to put an exhaust on there. This will just give me an excuse. The one thing I want to do if they're going on either car is I want to change this sloppy V-band at the back with, this is kind of a keyed V-band, so it self-centers, and then when you clamp it down, every time it's in the same position. Instead of these ones, you can always get it in a different position, and then when you're trying to align the exhaust up, it's just kind of a sloppy fit. Sometimes they leak, sometimes they don't. This is a lot nicer of a V-band. And then after I weld this V-band on here, I'll Cerakote this in the same color I did the FD turbo exhaust manifold, which is the Cerakote burnt bronze, and I think that will look really killer in either of the cars. So we'll try these out. I also am going to be doing front brake lines and some other stuff in the front, buttoning some stuff up there. I also have been working in many other videos with Aaron Rue and his brother Dustin, and they have been helping me tremendously with the project, making misalignment spacers, just making stuff on the CNC lathe that is more difficult to make, because the machine shop here they're doing like a remodel of the whole building, so I no longer have access to the machine shop. Plus I don't have a CNC lathe, and I wanted to upgrade some stuff from aluminum, and I also wanted to upgrade the rear heims to these QA1 X series heims, because these are a lot nicer unit, and they're chromoly, they won't rust, and also we'll have the stainless steel misalignment spacers, so everything will just look killer. It'll last a long time. Also, the reason behind doing all of this is so all these heims will match my lower control arms, but also because all of my misalignment spacers currently are made out of aluminum, and then they're hard anodized. So at first, when I made all this stuff, aluminum probably would have been okay, but after seeing this 3,000 horsepower GTR that has some SLP or SPL upper control arms, they start to wallow those like the holes, the bolts, they kind of shimmy in there and vibrate, and then it just kind of wallows that out over time, and then you just have to replace those. So I plan on daily driving this, or as close to daily driving this and driving this across country as I possibly can. I don't want to have any issues with a Heim or one of these misalignment spacers that are made out of aluminum having an issue. So big shout out to Dustin and Aaron for helping me out with these things. They've been helping me out big time. So once the car's done, I'm definitely gonna have to do something for them. But let's get all this stuff on there, test fit the headers, and hopefully see where we're at from there. I'm hoping that everything goes very smoothly today, so then we can get the exhaust finally buttoned up. Come on, header. I know you're gonna have to be modified because you aren't made to go an all-wheel drive car. All right. Stay. So big first issue, the headers hit just barely right here, and then they're too far over for the steering shaft. The steering shaft U-joint comes pretty far over, but she does have quite a bit of misalignment since it's a CV instead of a U-joint. So I could run it almost like 90 degrees, or I guess like 65 degrees, but probably something like that, because then it'll go up to that hole right there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use these long tube headers on the Wagon. There are a few reasons why I can't use them. The first reason is how this comes down. It actually contacts the subframe on both sides. So I could maybe move this up here, but then I'd have to get another one of these, cut all this, make sure it fits correctly, and then hopefully it's going to clear the subframe after I cut it, which is like a 50-50. But also on the driver's side, it doesn't clear the steering shaft. It's way too far over towards the frame rail. It actually clears the front differential very well. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I would rather not cut these up and sacrifice them because I could use them on the Challenger Hellcat. And like I said before, I'm going to weld a new V-band on there, Cerakote them in the bronze, and we'll have a nice set of headers. So that means I need to get an exhaust for the Challenger and kind of go from there. So we'll have headers and exhaust on that thing. She'll really open up and sound great. But what I'm going to do now is to resolve this issue, hopefully. I have the Trackhawk headers, the aftermarket ones that didn't fit, all the way up there. So I'm going to take those down and I'm going to cut them up, and hopefully I can make them work on the Wagon. Now finally have the misalignment spacer in the lower control arm, so the coilover is nice and tight. There isn't a bunch of slop. It's probably going to be set too high now, but I'll adjust it later on. I also have the stainless steel brake line connected to the caliper, connected to the chassis. I'm super excited about this because it took me a little bit of time to figure out that brake line. So unfortunately, Stop Tech doesn't let you you can't call them and tell them the length of a brake line and the thread pitch that you need anymore. So unfortunately, I'm not exactly sure why they do that, but I ended up using a 350Z one because I knew the caliper thread pitch on a 350Z and I knew the brake line, the hard line coming in thread pitch, and it's the same. So and it's a lot longer of a, it's about 6 inches longer, exactly what I needed. And the reason I needed it to be 6 inches longer is because the steering rack is in the front, which moves the caliper towards the rear. And this is a little bit better for performance. I'm not sure how much better, but a lot of supercars mount their calipers inbound on the front and the rear for weight balancing. So now, instead of having the caliper on the Hellcat, Charger, and Challenger in the front, we now have her in the rear. So I'm really happy about that. I have the Hawk HP Plus pads. I need to Cerakote those rotors like I did in the rear, and we'll have all of the front all buttoned up finally. And what I'm going to do now is get all the rear Heims, the QA1 Heims, installed. I now have the QA1 chromoly Heims on the rear. I was only able to do this arm right here and the back one on this one. So this front one, it didn't have enough misalignment, but I was still able to use the stainless steel misalignment spacers for now, and I'll have to figure out something later on. I'm most likely going to make an arm that comes around that, and I think that'll work a lot better than what I have right now. But for the time being, all of this is good to go. So what I'm going to do is throw this wheel back on here, and I'm really happy. You know, big shout out to QA1. Those Heims will be in the description. Big shout out to my subscriber Aaron Rue and his brother Dustin, because without those misalignment spacers, I probably would have been stuck with the aluminum ones for a while. But yeah, we have the stainless steel brake line, the caliper, the pads, all the rear stuff is ready to go. Axles in there, torqued down, everything is now torqued and finally ready to, yeah, she's finally close. She's really close. So I really need to, you know, by the end of the week, I'll have everything from Send Cut Send, or most of the stuff from Send Cut Send. I might have to do one more batch for the fuel tank, fab up the fuel tank, get the fuel tank finally in there, get the pump in there, get the fuel lines ran. Then I could permanently bolt the drive shaft in, torque everything down on that. I have the piece from Send Cut Send coming for the transmission. So I'm gonna use a transmission shifter selector from a Charger on the Trackhawk transmission, and that'll put that like cord going up instead of forward, which will give me a lot more drive shaft room. Since the factory Trackhawks and Durango Hellcats, that is very close to the drive shaft as it is, and I guess you have to shave it down when you go with the 3-inch drive shaft. So this will just give me all the room that I'll ever need. So I'm really happy that we're very, very close with the car, and very close being all the interior wires almost done, which I'm very happy about, and I cannot wait to finally get this thing on the ground. Unfortunately, the headers, I'm going to have to fab something pretty much 100% custom, which I wasn't wanting to do. I wanted to just pretty much throw those long tubes on it, do the exhaust, have all this stuff done today, and then, you know, once I got the fuel tank, get the fuel tank in there, get her on the ground, get her fired up for the first time. But it is, you know, it's 100% custom car. I don't think there's one part on this car that pretty much is, you know, the fenders are factory, the flares are factory, the headlights, the front bumper, the rear bumper, the front and the rear doors, but the rest of the car is 100% like custom. So unfortunately, that's how custom builds go. Nothing, you know, not everything bolts in, but we'll get it finished up. It's getting very close. It's just the last 10% is like 100% of the time. So we should have this done in the next, month, which will be really nice. Finally get it over to the Dodge dealership. I probably would have already had it done by the end of the year if I wasn't waiting on these headers. I should have just cut those Crackhawk headers up to begin with, and I would have already been finished with that. But yeah, we're gonna end the video here. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for subscribing. It's a new year. I think this is the first video of the year. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't posted a video in a while, but if you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.